Hello viewers, myself is Dr. Neeta and you are watching my channel Learn Literature with Dr. Neeta. So let us begin today's topic.
Hello dear students, today we will begin with the third part of post-structuralism, and in this part we would discuss with the theories and concepts given by the famous literary critic Jacques Derrida. Jacques Derrida was a French philosopher and literary theorist. He was born on July 15, 1930 in El Beir, Algeria, and Algeria at that time was a French colony. He began his academic career studying philosophy at École Normale Supérieure in Paris. So, his interest and inclination in philosophy can be seen from the very beginning of his career. He also studied at Harvard University and the University of Oxford. And as he was interested in philosophy, he taught as a philosopher of philosophy, as a professor of philosophy at various universities throughout his career, including the University of Paris and the École des Arts and Social Sciences Socials. He also held position of visiting professor at different institutions around the world. So his fame was there throughout the world, and that is why he was given the position of visiting professor at the prestigious universities of the world. His work was influenced by philosophers and thinkers like Friedrich Nietzsche, Martin Heidegger, Sigmund Freud, and the structuralists such as Ferdinand de Saussure. As all of you know, Ferdinand de Saussure was a person who gave the concept of structuralism, and this concept of structuralism influenced Jacques Derrida, and previously he used to believe in structuralism, but later he turned towards post-structuralism. His work got prominence during 1960s and 70s, and they challenged the traditional philosophical and literary theories. His works include Writing and Difference in 1967, of Grammatology, which is a famous work as far as the understanding of literary theories is concerned, Speech and Phenomena, Margins of Philosophy, Dissemination, The Postcard from Socrates to Freud and Beyond, The Gift of Death, and Speeches of Marx. These are the famous works of Jacques Derrida. As I told you, initially he was an structuralist, but later he challenged its traditional and philosophical linguistic assumption and contributed to post-structuralism. And now the question arises, what were those traditional assumptions? Traditional assumptions relied on the concept of the metaphysics of presence. What is metaphysics of presence? Metaphysics of presence is a belief that what is immediately and directly present before us is more real, authentic, and valuable than what is absent, deferred, or mediated. This is metaphysics of presence. Whatever is present, directly present before us, is considered to be more real and authentic in comparison to what is absent. For example, in speech and writing, as I am speaking before you, speech is thought to be more real, and similarly in direct experience and representation, direct experience is considered to be more real. For example, there is a play. So play is the representation of the direct experience. So in the play and direct experience is obviously considered to be more real. This was the traditional assumption that what is before our eyes, which is present before us, would be considered more real and authentic. It was the traditional assumption, as I told you, but Derrida was against this concept. Derrida argued that this bias or preference towards the presence can limit our understanding of the meaning of language. So he is I am talking here in relation to language. So if we believe merely in the thing which is present before us, then our understanding of the meaning of language would get limit. And the metaphysics of presence refers to the traditional Western philosophical emphasis on the presence of an essential truth or reality. According to Western philosophy, there is always an emphasis on the presence of an essential truth or reality. They believe, the Western philosophical tenets have faith in the thing that there is an essential truth or reality. It is associated with the metaphysical system that seek a stable and fixed foundation for knowledge. Western philosophical tenets have faith in the presence of an essential truth or reality, and they say that as there is an essential truth that is present, so there is a stable and fixed foundation for knowledge. But Derrida does not agree with this thing. He critiques the metaphysics of presence through his philosophical approach known as deconstruction. And to just make us understand the pitfalls of this tenet of metaphysics of present, he has used this method or this process of deconstruction that seek to destabilize the traditional assumptions like binary oppositions and stability of meaning. Stability of meaning, as I told you, with the metaphysics of presence, maintain that there is a single and fixed meaning of each and everything. It means we can apply it on the text. So the text is there, and it is thought that this text has a single meaning. But Derrida does not agree with that. Similarly, as it has been told by Ferdinand de Saussure, that in the structure of the text, we should try to understand the meaning of the text through the binary opposites. The concept of binary opposites has been well explained by the structuralist Ferdinand de Saussure. If you want to understand this concept, go through the video in which I have told about Ferdinand de Saussure. So Ferdinand de Saussure explains about the binary opposites, so we would go through them in the further slides. According to him, these assumptions were problematic. According to Derrida, these assumptions, which assumptions? The assumption of binary opposite and the assumption of stability of meaning, they are problematic in his eyes because they narrow the understanding of language and the understanding of the meaning of some text. He argued that the language is inherently complex, fluid, and resistant to fixed meaning. He said that language is not fixed, it is fluid. It is not simple that it can be understood on the basis of certain signs and signifiers, as it has been told by Ferdinand de Saussure. He said it has a complex structure, it is fluid, that is why its meaning is persistently changing as it is in a state of flux. So the quest for the stable foundation is futile, and in such circumstances, when the things are so rapidly changing, and if we are searching for a single meaning of a text, it is a futile search for us. Another criticism that Derrida has given is the criticism of the concept of logocentrism. Now the question arises, what is logocentrism? The word logocentrism is having two words, logo and centrism, and the meaning of logos, at least at this place, is speech. So this is a significant term which he has used while developing his theory of deconstruction, and he challenged the concept of logocentrism. According to logocentrism, it is an established Western philosophical belief. They have belief in logocentrism. What is logocentrism? In logocentrism, speech is privileged over writing, and spoken words are considered a foundation of meaning. It means in speech and writing, speech is considered to be more significant in comparison to writing, and In other words, we may say the spoken words are considered a foundation of meaning, a source of authority, and a source of truth. Derrida argued that this hierarchy has been historically favored and constructed, so it is to be deconstructed. Why speech is considered privileged over writing? The answer that Derrida gives is that it has been historically favored, and that is why this concept has been constructed in such a manner that we used to believe that speech is privileged over writing. But he does not agree with that, so he wants to deconstruct this ideology. He argued that writing is not secondary but has its own significance. According to Derrida, writing should not be considered secondary. Then at what place writing should be kept? According to Derrida, it has got its own significance. He rejected the idea and argued that language is full of contradictions and the meaning of the text is always changing depending on the context in which it is read. As far as the superiority of speech is concerned, we may take the example of a court. As there is some dispute and the advocate is just putting some evidences, so he is speaking, and what he is saying is considered to be good or truth. But what he is saying, he is trying to prove his point on the basis of certain rules and regulations which are there written in some books or in our constitution. So how can we say that speech is superior to writing? Because our speech also depends on some writing somewhere. This is what Jacques Derrida has said. He said that writing is not secondary. Another thing, what he said that the language has a number of meanings. A single meaning of text cannot be concluded because the meaning of the text changes on the basis of the context in which it has been read, on the basis of the reader, in what circumstances he is reading the book, in what context he is reading the book, the meaning would change accordingly. So the two things, what he is trying to suggest, one thing, that he is against logocentrism because he believes that writing is as significant as speech. Second thing, on which he is emphasizing that language cannot be understood in a way that we can say that it is having a singular meaning. Rather, it is having a multiple meanings which depend on its context. Derrida deconstructs this by pointing out that speech itself is a form of writing. When we speak, we rely on a system of signs and differences. That what I told you, that when we speak, we are having at the back of our mind a system of sign and differences. Sign and differences, there is a system of language which is working in the back of our mind, and then we are speaking. So how it is possible to say that speech is superior to writing? So he is against logocentrism. Another critique by Jacques Derrida is of binary opposition. Binary opposition is a kind of thing that is used to understand the language, and the idea has been given by Ferdinand de Saussure in his Structuralism. And these two concepts, logocentrism and binary opposites, are somewhat relying on each other. Logocentrism often relies on the concept of binary opposition, such as good, evil, as there is, we told you about spoken words versus writing. Similarly, good, evil, male, female, normal, abnormal. And traditionally it was thought that if we try to understand some text, we have to understand that text through these binary opposites. And according to this concept, one argues that one term in pair cannot exist without other. This is what logocentrism says. The term in these pairs are hierarchically ordered, with one term being privileged over the other. In these terms, good and evil, good is considered to be superior, male and female, male is considered to be superior, normal, abnormal, normal is considered to be superior. So, such was the case before Derrida. Derrida challenged this hierarchical structure, declaring that the supposed superiority of one term is based on historical, cultural or linguistic factors rather than any inherent superiority. So, he says that we usually used to think in that term because we have been historically and culturally and linguistically constructed in such a way that we used to read the things in these binary opposition. This is not the inherent superiority. So, he is challenging this concept of binary oppositions, which was just suggested by the structuralist. Derrida disrupts the principle of binary logic, arguing that this distinction between opposites are not defined, as the elements of one opposites can be found within the other, and this blurs boundaries between the opposites completely. He says that these are not the binary opposites. For example, in male and female, if we say that no quality of male is there in female, it would be wrong, because there are certain characteristics which are common in both of them. So, if we try to understand the things on the basis of these binary, we cannot have a clear-cut boundary between these two, because at certain places this boundary would get blurred, and in that case we would not be able to understand the meaning clearly. So, he says these binary opposites could not be considered stable or fixed because the boundary is blurring at a number of places. Rather, they depend on each other for meaning. This we may say. He says that opposites may be there, but they may be helpful in understanding the meaning of each other, but they cannot rely on each other. In fact, the meaning of one term in opposite is defined by its relationship to other. This relationship is subject to a constant change. So, what he says that if you want to understand the meaning of one term in the binary opposite, you will have to first decide its relation to the other term. Only then we can understand the meaning clearly. We would just come to understand this concept with the help of an example. And this relationship is subject to a constant change. So, if there is one thing and if we are not able to understand its relationship with the other thing, we would not be able to understand it completely. And the relationship which is there, this relationship is continuously changing. So, the meaning is continuously changing. For example, traditional gender binaries often privilege masculinity over femininity. All of you know, feminist deconstructionists argue that characteristic attributes to each gender are not fixed. There is masculinity, there is femininity. These are the two binaries. And now Derrida says that if we try to understand the characteristics of masculinity and characteristics of femininity, then if we are trying to understand the characteristics of masculinity, we say that the person should be sturdy, muscle should be strong there, he should be capable of raising so much weight. And if we try to understand the characteristic qualities of femininity, the tenderness, sobriety, these kind of qualities are related to femininity. So, what Derrida says? Derrida says that these qualities are not inherent. They have been socially constructed. And as they are socially constructed, we cannot say that to understand masculinity, femininity is essential, because even there can be a female who is having some masculine qualities and there is a male who is having some feminine qualities. So, the barriers or the boundary which we have laid before them is blurring at a number of places. So, as the boundary is blurring, then we would have a kind there would be some change in the meaning of the understanding of masculinity and femininity. At that places where the boundary is blurring, the meaning of masculinity and femininity would definitely change. Similarly, if we are trying to understand the text on the basis of these binaries, the meaning would also change where the boundaries are blurring. So we cannot say that text has a single meaning. Another concept which is given by Jacques Derrida is the concept of difference. Jacques Derrida's concept of difference is a key element of his theory of deconstruction. This is quite a famous term, and all of you should keep this term in mind. He introduced this concept of difference, and see the meaning of difference. It is not the same meaning as we used to use in English. There is E after R, but here it is A after R, as a tool to deconstruct and change traditional philosophical assumptions of a stable and transparent meaning of a text. This word comes from the French word differer. So this term difference has its roots in French verb differer, which is having the two meanings. One is to differ, it means it is having some different meaning, and another is to differ. So difference involves a lively and ever-changing play of differences. Differences means the meanings are different at different times, and deferral means to postpone within the realm of language. It challenges the notion of fixed meaning in language, and it indicates that the meaning is constantly shifting. So try to understand it with the help of an example. Now the play of differences. In language, meaning does not arise from the isolated word or the fixed sum, but from the differences between the word. For example, a very simple example, if we want to understand the word cat, the meaning of the word cat, not in other language, if we are trying to understand the word cat, then how would we make it understand to others? The meaning is not immediately present, but it relies on the differences with other words. So we would give the example that it is different from dog in this respect, it is different from bird in this respect, and it is different from lion in these respects, and it is different from fish in these respects, or its a comparison with any other animal. Each time we are differentiating it with dog or cat or lion or any other animal, the meaning would be different. The true meaning of the term becomes clear when we compare or contrast them to find out the differences. Then the true meaning of the term cat would come when we have found out the differences, either with dog or with bird. In a way, their meanings are relational. If we want to understand cat in relation to dog, then we would tell certain specific differences. If we are comparing it with bird to make the meaning clear, we would have certain other differences. So these differences would make the meaning clear. So in this manner, these differences change the meaning. The meaning of the cat would be different when there is comparison with dog. The meaning of cat would be different when we are comparing it with bird. The way would be different, and that is why we would have the different meaning. Similarly, there is a play of deferrals. Meaning of a word is never immediately present. but it is deferred, postponed or mediated through a chain of signifiers. This concept of signs, signifiers, symbols I have told in the video in which I have described structuralism, and that video is related to Ferdinand de Saussure. So go through it and you will be able to understand these signifiers if you are not able to understand it now. But the meaning I would try to make it clear. When the meaning of the word freedom is searched, its meaning may include terms like liberty or autonomy. For example, if we are going to search for the meaning of the word freedom in the dictionary, we would find certain terms like liberty, autonomy, or unbound, like that. We would have a list of terms. But which one is the correct? For that we again search the dictionary. So if we are trying to understand the meaning of liberty, would be a list of words. If we are trying to understand autonomy, there would be a list of words. So to understand these terms, there would be further exploration into the meanings, encountering additional terms. So terms after terms would come to us, and thus there would be a web of association forms. And the meaning of freedom is deferred. It means it would be delayed, it would be postponed through this complex network. So this would change time to time. So in that manner, he says that meaning is not fixed, rather it would change each time according to the context in which the word has been read. Now, what is deconstruction? Structuralists built up a system of words with sign, signifier and signified, but Derrida tears it down through deconstruction. According to structuralist, any text is having a system or a structure of words, and words have been again defined in the terms of sign, signifier and signified. But Derrida does not agree with that, though initially he agreed. But later he disagreed and tears it down through his process of deconstruction. Deconstruction is a process in which a thing is taken apart. It means there is a structure of the text and the things are taken apart, not only to see how it works. One function is how the system is working, how that structure is working. This is not the only thing that Derrida wants to find out after deconstruction. Another thing that he wants to find out, how and why it was put like that initially. Why the structure has been made like that. What was the purpose of the people who made the structure of language like that. So this is what Derrida wants to do through his deconstruction. In this way, we can say that deconstruction is not a method with a fixed set of rules, but rather an approach that seeks to reveal the inherent complexities, ambiguities, and contradiction within the text or concepts. So, whatever contradiction, complexities, and ambiguities are there in a particular text or in a framed concept, deconstruction through a process tries to find out its complexities and ambiguities by searching how and why the things were put together in that particular manner. Instead, meaning is constantly being created and recreated. So, in this process, what happens when we are trying to find out complexities, ambiguities, and contradictions? The things would be compared and contrasted to the things, and we would find the new meanings according to our own comparisons and own contrasts. So, the meaning in that manner would be created and recreated on the basis of the reader who is trying to deconstruct that text. So, in fact, deconstruction is that process in which text and reader interact to find the complexities, ambiguities, and contradictions of a text, and when the reader tries to find out how and why these things are put together in such a manner. So here in a nutshell, I have tried to explain deconstruction once again. Deconstruction challenges traditional hierarchies, binaries and assumed centers of meaning. It questions the idea that one element of a binary pair is more important or fundamental than other. As I told you earlier also, deconstruction argues that texts are inherently unstable and that the meaning is never fixed. These are the basic tenets of deconstruction. It is always, it means the meaning is always in a state of flux and interpretation can vary. And the interpretation of the text can vary depending on the reader who is reading the text. The interpretation would depend in what context he is reading, in what context the text was written, and the other factors which are contradicting and making the text complex. A deconstruction encourages multiple readings of a text. For the deconstructionist approach, the multiple reading of the text is essential because only then the multiple meanings would be possible to find out, rejecting the idea that there is a singular and correct interpretation. Derrida never believes in a single and correct interpretation. He says the reader would find out the meaning. So this is the basic difference. Derrida is not saying that there is no significance of the writer. He says the biography of writer may not be significant, but how and why the perception has been made like that is significant. So different reader and context can produce different meaning, and these interpretations are all valid within the framework of deconstruction. Now the thing is there, you would be able to understand certain basic terms and certain basic rules regarding deconstruction and Derrida, but it would be appropriate if you are able to deconstruct some simple text so that you may understand that when we are reading a text, what we should try to deconstruct. So I would definitely make a video after that so that you may understand how to deconstruct a text. So thanks for your patience listening, and I think you would be able to understand some basic concepts of Jacques Derrida.